Hey guys, it's Sky. So I got some Stamina Dragon Knight, no CP Battlegrounds build for you today. I didn't really have a good build when I started doing more BGs and more like Sotha stuff, no CP. So I was playing around with it a lot, and I came across this and I really liked it. And I had some friends ask me and what I thought about Stam Dragon Knight and no CP and what I thought was good, and I passed this build along to them, and the feedback's been really good. So figured I'd share it with you guys. Just wanted to kind of go over what makes the build work, why we're running what we run, because Dragon Knight, the conventional, get to 30k stam and then stack weapon damage with double damage sets. It doesn't work in no CP. You can't sustain it very well. It's just you have to build a little differently. So there's a lot of different ways to build in no CP too. A lot of people like proc sets. I don't have a problem with proc sets. I think that there's a lot of ways to skin a cat when you're talking no CP. A lot of sets that are really not good in CP are viable in no CP. So this is just my take on it and the style that I like to play. It's a very well-rounded build. It has a lot of resistance, a good amount of sustain, and just enough damage to get the job done if you outplay your opponent. And it kind of counters a lot of those proc set metas that we see in no CP. So going into it, I've got two variations of this build, by the way. So this is going to be the first variation with blood spawn. The other variation is going to use Valken Scoria, and I'll show you that in a second. But we're running 5-1-1 medium bone pirate and armor master with blood spawn, all impen, and armor master on the back bar. It only needs to be on the back bar for shuffle, so that's what activates our resistances. You can see we have a ton of resistance, and that's before a Bloodspawn proc as well. And then also we've got so health, stam, mostly stam glyphs, and then 3 small health glyphs, 2 large health glyphs. It's really hard to get to a good health threshold in no CP, but because of the food we're running, we're able to get a lot of health and without sacrificing very many other stats. We're running the spring-loaded infusion and the stamina Tower Mundus. So spring-loaded infusion is a drink, and so it procs Bone Pirate. And then we're running 3 robust, and we've got a lot of stam, a lot of recovery, and we're running Master Dual Wield on the front bar, Nirnhoned sharpened. And then a Nirnhoned Battle Axe of the Armor Master on the back bar, just to kind of buff our back bar, I guess, Noxious Breath and our heals. It's just nice to have the Nirnhoned Buster heals really nicely for your rally. And mainly because I usually use a defending back bar, but with the blood spawn and the armor master, it just wasn't necessary with this setup. You could also run decisive or infused, but we're running our weapon damage glyph back there and poisons on the front bar. So the front bar glyphs on dual wield are just super underwhelming this patch, and the poisons help us sustain through our passive here, combustion, applying poison. It's really nice, gives us 500 stam every 5 seconds, which is a good little bit of recovery, especially when you're in no CP. You need every bit of recovery you can get. So the race I've chosen for this build is Wood Elf. I've played with a lot of different races. We're actually on the PTS right now because I was doing some testing with different races, but so we can't get into Sotha or anything to show you what the stats are in no CP, but I didn't put any CP in, so it should be exactly the same, minus your 5k health from Battle Spirit. So we're running Wood Elf. We get this little dodge roll speed bonus. It's really handy. It's even though it's 10%, it's really good. And then penetration as well. So we're using our Venomous Claw and our Noxious Breath. So both of those guys will get the penetration when you dodge roll, even if you're not even fighting the guy and they're just ticking, you'll get the penetration while they're ticking, which is really nice. And you can also, I mean, it's super easy to just time, like, all that gets increased penetration if you dodge roll right before it. And I mean, as a stam character in medium, you should be dodge rolling a fair amount. You don't want to dodge roll too much, and you don't want to stack your dodge rolls, but It's really good to have that extra little bit. And then the big reason we're using is because of the stam recovery. As you can see, with a potion up, we've got 2109 stam recovery, which is absolutely nuts for no CP. That partnered with our combustion passive 500 and our earth and heart helping hands passive 990 when you use fossilize in combat. We're sustaining very well without giving up a lot of stats and without giving up a lot of damage. Like, our damage here is 3204, and then if we were to cast fossilize to get minor brutality, we would have about 3500 weapon damage. And then that with master dual wield and with the penetration from noxious breath, it's plenty of damage. It's all the damage you're going to need in no CP. And on top of that, with that sustain and with that damage, with the blood spawn proc, we're at 3400 spell resistance and 30k physical resistance. So that's this setup. It's really good. It plays really nice. You know, all of the set really synergizes well together. Just it's really good for no CP. I really like it. I encourage you guys to try it. You know, I've really been enjoying being able to sustain like I'm in no CP. Oh look, noxious breath actually hit. Yeah, I don't understand this skill. Anyways, it is good though for no CP. I don't like running it in CP, but I find that it's really good to have in no CP just because we don't have our penetration from our regular champion points. So potions we're using, tripods I like a lot just so I can cast more wings. You can also cast weapon crit. That'd give us about 32% crit on the front bar with the dagger, which is nice to have because we do lose out on that perfect strike from champion points. That's I think it's 9% crit, so we do lose that buff. So it's nice with the medium just to have that extra crit. And yeah, so here, let me show you guys the other setup real quick. So this one's a little more cheesy, maybe you can call it whatever you like to call it, but now we run scoria, and since we're running scoria, we go to a stam enchant on the helm. That is instead of a max health, because we get the max health from scoria, which I think is pretty underrated for no CP. Like I said, it's really hard to get stats. We're still running 2 stam recovery on the jewelry. We still got a one weapon damage glyph. And then our back bar we go to defending because we don't have the blood spawn resistances anymore. And for our back bar skills we go carve instead of noxious because now we're relying on a set a little more for our damage, so we don't need the penetration quite as much, and also carve gives minor heroism, which is really nice to have. So you can see when we're on our back bar now with the defending, our resistances are a little lower than they'd be with the blood spawn proc on the last build, but a little higher than they would be otherwise. So you know, and you've got a lot of dots that can proc scoria here. Your volatile armor puts a dot on that can proc it as well, along with the poisons, along with the it's good. We get a lot of scoria procs, and in no CP those things really hurt. So last potions we use is the essence of immovability. I don't use these with blood spawn a lot just because I don't feel quite as squishy, but with the scoria build I do like them. And when I do use them, I use the crit ones as well. I don't have too much of a problem with healing on this build, to be completely honest. So you can use the health stam immovable ones though. Totally up to you guys. So just a couple things. So some skills you can slot back in. This guy's shifting standard, putting it on your back bar, I think is really good for like those flag games in Battlegrounds. You can pretty much just create like an area of denial on the flag that puts out major defile and some pretty good dot damage. And then you could also run like undo back there, temporal guard. It gives you a little blocky shield, and then also I don't recommend using it ever, but when it's slotted it gives you minor protection. You don't want to use it on Dragon Knight though, because it doesn't get affected by your Battle Roar passive. It actually does like 1 out of 4 times. There's some weird coding behind it, but it's totally worked. So see, we got it there, but only for Stam. Anyways, Last things, we can use Dawnbreaker Smiting on the front bar. That's another good thing that can be good for no CP. You want to take the Dawnbreaker Smiting more if I have Flawless Dawnbreaker from doing PvE stuff. But I prefer keeping Leap just because it's a gap closer, and in no CP you don't want to sprint as much because you don't have the CP reduction passives, so we use Take Flight there as a gap closer. Aside from that, just these sets, I think it's really nice. I think that they work really well together. I think that Scoria is absolutely a viable option for StamDK. Scoria does deal flame damage, so it can proc burning, which once again helps you sustain through Battle Roar. It's a pretty low chance of proccing it, but so we might not be able to proc it here. But yeah, it's good. Also, remember, keep your poisons on. I used the dressing room thing, so I don't have them on now. But and then, so just so you guys know, I've seen some stuff on people debating how proc sets work and what buffs them, what doesn't. So like, there's a couple guys I've seen like ganking on Stand Blades with Zon, and they're trying to stack their max magicka pool in order to buff their Zon, and that's not how it works. I even saw a guy one time talking about perennials to buff Zon, and that's not how it works. So proc sets scale off of your penetration, either magical or physical, so spell or physical penetration, or they scale off of your percentage buffs. So if you get a percentage buff to flame damage like Dark Elf used to, if you get a percentage like minor vulnerabilities, 8% more damage taken buffs it, that sort of thing. Minor Berserk, Major Berserk buffs it, but your weapon damage, spell damage does not buff it, and your stat pools do not buff it. So don't worry about any of that stuff, guys. Just run the set, and you'll be getting about 3k 4k procs from it. And if you're with a Magden and they put Major Breach on the guy, you'll be getting like almost 5k procs with Scoria, and like I said, we have a ton of dots. We have passive dots from our back bar bleed, we have carve, we have rending slashes, we have claw, and then passive bleeds from our front bar as well. And then also volatile armor, if you cast it standing next to someone, is also a dot. So should proc on cooldown pretty much for you. I think it's a good setup. I really like it. I just wanted to show the blood spawn variation because some people like it a little more conventional without any proc sets, which I totally understand. So yeah, that's it, guys. Not super long video here. Just wanted to show you what I was running for no CP, because I've gotten a few questions, and I know a lot of guys like to just BG and not do Cyrodiil, and this is just a really well-rounded build with a lot of sustain, a lot of damage, and a lot of tankiness. So have a good one, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.